Hi, my name is Karina Williams, and this is my oral book report. The book that I read is This Changes Everything by Naomi Klein. This book was published in 2014 by Simon & Schuster. A little bit about the author, Naomi Klein. She is a journalist and an author. She usually makes books that shed light on environmental issues and how they affect society. This Changes Everything looks at climate change through a political and a capitalistic point of view. Klein looks at much of evidence of climate change through several different events. One event is the Bolivia glaciers melting and how that caused many lives to be lost. She talks about Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina and also all the devastation that occurred then. And she talks about how in Washington a plane crashed during takeoff because it was burning too much fossil fuels. The delivery of this book it's broke down in 3 different sections. The first section is called Bad Timing. The second section is called Magical Thinking, and the third section is called Starting Anyways. Klein also explores how big businesses affect climate change. She does this by talking about industries like the Koch brothers, BP, ExxonMobil, and how those industries kind of drive and influence the media, which in return influences how society takes in climate change. Of course, the people who, like these corporations, who benefit from using so much energy and affecting climate change are the ones who also don't want to combat or work with people who are for fighting climate change. I find that throughout the story, Naomi Klein asks the question. She presents that if we have so much information on how climate change is affecting the earth, why isn't more being done about it? She knows that we have the resources, like the money, and the technology to combat climate change, but also realizes, once again, nothing is really truly being done. And she says that this is because of political reasons. She says there's many people out there who don't even want to say climate change is a real thing. She says that honestly not enough is being done. Small fact she mentioned was 75% of Democrats do believe in climate change, while only 20% of Republicans do. Republicans believe that if we start making stronger laws to regulate things that affect climate change, that pretty soon we'll start making laws that are going to affect everyday things. In the book, she mentions how one guy was saying that if we make those laws, next thing we'll start having government cars, waking up in our government houses, driving our government cars, eating government food, going to our government jobs, and going to government schools. Everything will be controlled by the government if we start making laws to help combat climate change. Klein also mentions how not only are we not doing anything to make climate change better, we're actually actively making it worse. Klein points out how much of the current actions being done right now or even in the past to fight climate change have been very counteractive. She mentions a group called the United Nations Intercontinental Panel, which they held a meeting called the Heartland Conference. This meeting was supposed to be a meeting from global leaders around the earth to come together and come up with ways to combat climate change. She kind of made a mockery out of it because the people who were the ones speaking against it were also the people who were the ones causing it, and also people who didn't have much background on climate change. It was people who were hobbyists, economics, lawyers, and they were really trying to tell scientists that climate change is not as a big deal as we think it is, and it's not truly affecting us in such a harsh way as many scientists know it is. She knows that how if we start to change climate change, that we would have to change so much because we would change the way our world makes money and capitalizes. She said that this is the reason why it's not being done once again. It's lack of drive from the people who have the most control. And that just like many of the environmentalists that we've learned about, like Hardin, she knows, and Lynn, she knows that we need to make a change from society as a whole, and our mindset has to be different in order for anything to ever be done. One thing that I really liked the book, and it really kind of drawed me to the book, was how she tied together climate change and social justice. I am a human services major, so anything that has to do with like social issues, I'm really kind of into. And Klein made a big point that instead of making social injustice and climate change separate issues, that we really need to make them issues that complement each other. And if we can change one of them, we can change both of them. Or that if we do, one will affect the other. What I liked, that's what I liked the book. Okay, so major themes of the book were greed. This is because, these big corporations are the ones who are using the most energy, and by doing that, they're the ones who are affecting our climate change the most, and they're being greedy about it. Change, because, that's what we want. We want change. We want to see a difference in how our earth is treated overall. Good versus evil, because I felt like throughout the story, a lot of the times, she looked at these corporations as evil in a sense, and good as the people who are the ones working towards combating everything. Power and corruption, because, they're producing what comes out to the media, and in that sense, it's the power corrupting society's brain and how we view climate change. Survival, because it's really all about survival. We want the earth to sustain and last as much as it possibly can. And individual versus society, because she talks about things that the individual can do to make things better, as well as things society in a whole can do to make things better. What I took away from this book and the class in general, it's just definitely things that I can do myself to reduce my own carbon footprint. Definitely since I've started this class and since reading the book, I have done little things myself. Like, I notice myself turning lights off if I see them on. I try to, not run the water as much as I can, carpooling as much as I can. Just little things that I can do to reduce my own energy consumption. And as far as recommending the book, I do think it's a really great book, but I will say that if you do not have any prior knowledge or have not taken any classes on environmental issues, that you may struggle a little bit with the book. It's very lengthy and it has a lot of facts in it. So although I do like the book and recommend it, I do think it needs to be, it's set for a college educated person. The average person might have difficulty reading this book. And yeah, overall, I liked it though.